A camera filmed 78 men burning alive. The footage was buried for 29 years. The Soviets said it never happened. The R-16 was never meant for the stars. It was a weapon built to carry a nuclear warhead 13,000 kilometers straight to the United States. 2 stages were fueled with chemicals that ignited on contact, enough to vaporize a city. The missile stood on Pad 41 at Baikonur, a steel skeleton loaded with unsymmetrical dimethylhydrazine and nitrogen tetroxide. Engineers found electrical faults even before the countdown began. Circuits flickered, warning lights glowed. The safe move was to stand down, drain the tanks, and clear the pad. Soviet launch rules demanded it. But Marshal Mitrofan Nedelin, commander of the Strategic Rocket Forces, refused to wait. He wanted the missile ready for the 43rd anniversary of the October Revolution, a parade deadline set by Khrushchev himself. Delay was weakness. Failure was unthinkable. Nedelin ordered the fueling to continue. He walked the pad in his field uniform, surrounded by a crowd of officers, technicians, and soldiers, more than 150 men standing within meters of a bomb. Yangel, the chief designer, worked under Nedelin's eye, caught between engineering caution and the Marshal's threats. The R-16 was not a spacecraft. It was a nuclear weapon, forced toward launch by political command, not technical readiness. Every safety warning was ignored. Every shortcut was justified by the clock. The disaster that followed belonged to the weapons program and to the men who demanded a show for the cameras. Official protocol at Baikonur was clear. When a missile showed faults, the pad had to be emptied and the tanks drained. No exceptions. A live missile was a bomb, and the only way to survive a fault was distance. On October 24, 1960, every rule was ignored. Marshal Nedelin gave the order himself. No evacuation, no defueling. The R-16 stood loaded with unsymmetrical dimethylhydrazine and nitrogen tetraxide, both ready to ignite on contact. Repairs continued with the propellant tanks full. Instead of a handful of technicians, there were 150 men clustered within meters of the missile. An entire company of officers, engineers, and soldiers, standing around a bomb that could vaporize them in seconds. Nedelin wanted to show confidence, not caution. He had a chair brought to the base of the rocket and sat in full view, chain-smoking, talking with Yangel and his staff. The message was simple. If the Marshal wasn't afraid, no one else should be. But the only thing that spread was fear. Technicians whispered about the fuel's stench and the warning lights that glowed red. Some begged to clear the area. Nedelin dismissed them. Delay would mean failure. And failure was forbidden. Pad 41 became a kill zone. The perimeter fence, meant to keep out intruders, now trapped the men inside. The ground was a patchwork of steel, cables, and fuel lines, slick with chemicals. Every second the missile remained fueled, the risk grew. But the order stood. Keep working. No one left. No one was allowed to. In that moment, the difference between a controlled test and a mass grave was a single decision, and it was already too late. And then someone reset a switch. Technicians, under orders to keep working, tried to fix the electrical faults by resetting the launch pad switches one by one, hands moving fast, sweat mixing with the stench of fuel. One reset sent a surge through the wrong circuit. In that instant, the second stage engine ignited while the missile was still upright, its first stage full of hypergolic chemicals. A short circuit and a blinding flash. Power flowed where it should never have gone. The second stage fired straight down into the first, rupturing the tank and spraying fuel. There was no time to react. The missile, still locked to the pad, became a bomb. This was the point of no return. 30 seconds. 78 men, gone. The second stage engine fired while the R-16 was still chained to pad 41. A column of exhaust punched straight down, burning through steel plating and into the first stage fuel tank. The tank ruptured in an instant. Hypergolic propellants, unsheltered and unstable, spilled and mixed. The fuel ignited. The pad vanished in a fireball so bright it lit the sky 50 kilometers away. The blast wave swept outward, flattening scaffolding, shattering glass in distant buildings, and erasing every living thing within meters of the missile. There was no warning, no time to shout or run. Men closest to the rocket were incinerated where they stood. Nothing left but scorched metal tags, fused belt buckles, and the outlines of boots burned into the asphalt. Farther out, men tried to escape. The perimeter fence, meant to keep out spies, became a cage. They ran, but the ground betrayed them. Asphalt softened, then melted, turning to black glue. Boots stuck fast. Men screamed as the flames rolled over them, their uniforms catching fire, skin burning as they struggled to break free. Some tore off their shoes and crawled, but burning fuel clung to their hands and faces. The fence trapped them. They could not escape. The fire did not care who they were: engineer, officer, conscript, general. It swept over all of them. Beyond the flames, a cloud of toxic vapor rolled out from the blast. The air turned to poison. Acid fumes burned lungs and eyes. Men staggered, blinded and choking, their throats raw, skin blistering as they tried to crawl away from the pad. Some collapsed before they reached the fence. Others died hours later, lungs destroyed by the invisible gas. The air itself killed them. The fireball consumed everything in its path. Metal buckles, medals, and shoulder boards were all that survived. Marshal Nedelin was found only by a melted metal fused to a silvery disc and the warped remains of his shoulder boards. The bodies of engineers, officers, and soldiers were burned beyond recognition, identified only by scraps of metal and charred fragments of uniform. The blast left nothing but scorched earth, twisted steel, and silence. The official count: 78 dead. An entire company of men erased in half a minute. Some accounts say more than 100 died that day, but the Soviets locked away the truth for decades. The Nedelin disaster remains the deadliest rocket accident in history. 30 seconds, 78 men, gone. With the fire still smoldering at Baikonur, the state moved instantly from emergency to erasure. Within hours, Khrushchev's order sealed every fact under the highest level of classification. The official story emerged almost as quickly as the smoke cleared. Marshal Nedelin, dead in a plane crash. The same lie was handed to the families of the other 77 men. Not a missile test, not a fireball that burned them alive. Just an aviation accident, somewhere far from the pad. No open funerals, no names in the paper. The bodies, what little could be gathered, were buried in secret, their graves marked only by rank and number. Survivors who crawled out of the blast were called into offices and forced to sign agreements to stay silent. Any truth spoken aloud was labeled anti-Soviet agitation. The commission led by Brezhnev met behind closed doors and issued its verdict. The guilty had already been punished. The files were locked away for a generation. The LIE became a second act of violence. A wound left open for 29 years, classified and buried, while the families waited for answers that never came. Mikhail Yangel survived because he stepped away to smoke behind a concrete bunker. The men who broke protocol lived. The men who stayed at their posts, including engineers, officers, and soldiers, were burned, incinerated, or vaporized in seconds. The irony is brutal. A cigarette break saved Yangel's life while discipline sealed the fate of everyone else. Across the world, U.S. seismic sensors picked up the explosion, registering a blast equal to a small earthquake near Baikonur. Months later, Oleg Penkovsky, a Soviet officer turned Western spy, handed the truth to the CIA: a missile test, a fireball, dozens dead, Nedelin among them. The enemy knew before the Soviet public did. For 29 years, the official story was a plane crash. The real footage, filmed but never shown, sat in a classified archive until the USSR collapsed. A child born that day was nearly 30 before the truth came out. Today, the official toll stands at 78. An entire company incinerated in 30 seconds because warnings were ignored and protocol overruled. The Soviets hid it for 29 years. This is what happens when pressure outweighs life and silence smothers the truth.